customers' part exchange keys, and he threw them on the roof, and he went, well, they're not going home in that now, are they, Laura? So get and sell one of these. You couldn't get away with that.
You hated my guts.
I did. Richard Hoggett, our CEO, and Mark Gale took me out for lunch. We've been thinking about this connected idea. You know, we want to go independence, and I've got the perfect person. I'm there going, oh, right, okay, who's that? And he went, you. And I said, no, thank you. That's my happy place with my team.
Compliance is boring.
It is!
That's how it is, isn't it?
That's how it is. This is John.
And this is Nick.
And this is How It Is.
And have we got a show for you today? We have got Laura Jones from DSG.
Hello.
Laura, first of all, I haven't got a clue what your title is. And, how did it all start?
Okay, well, good morning. Apologies, I'm rather late. I think, 24 hours late.
Yep.
I had a bit of a nightmare getting down here. Could have got to the Caribbean quicker. But anyway, so hello, everyone. I'm Laura Jones. I'm a divisional director for DSG Connected, which is part of the DSG group. The Connected division solely looks after independent and 1 or 2 / franchise dealers. That was established in 2018.
Okay, and how did you get the gig? Was you headhunted?
No, so I've been with DSG since 2011. Prior to that, motor trade through and through. So in 2011, I just loved finance and the motor trade. I'd been a BM. I'd done sort of all of that gig. And cut a long story short, I'd just been really lucky. I love to talk to people. I love also to listen. So I'd started off in the main dealer network, so looking after predominantly the AM 200 as an external out on the road. FCA changed, all of that rulings came in. So I sort of progressed to a regional. Then I sort of headed up the national side for the main dealer network. And we'd always wanted to have a completely separate part of the business just focusing on independence. Because we sort of dipped our toe in with the independents, and I think really quickly retreated going, hang on a minute, they want, I think, something else. They need a different service.
Yeah, so it's a very, very different animal altogether.
100%. So basically, in August 2017, Richard Hoggett, our CEO, and Mark Gale took me out for lunch. I don't like to really go for lunch with them because they eat like animals. They're the quickest eaters ever. They give me indigestion just watching them. And Richard basically sat there and said, we've been thinking about this connected idea. We want to go independence. We want maybe 10 externals on the road, thinking about doing 300 deals a month, something like that. And I've got the perfect person. I'm there going, oh, right, okay, who's that? And he went, you. And I said, no, thank you. No, I don't want to do it. I like my shiny gym palaces, thank you. I'm quite happy there, lording around and doing, corporate days and things like that. But look, fast forward, and we started trading in 2018, and it's the best thing I've ever done. So me on my own with basically 4 people to where we are today.
So what do you find are the biggest differences between the independent car dealer and the franchise dealer?
That's a really interesting question. So I made some, as we all do, made some massive mistakes. And when we launched Connected, there was 4 externals, 2 internals and me. That was it. And I had assumed, because we all do as human beings, that the independents would want the same service, technology, compliance, commission as what the main dealer network was. And my thoughts were, well, why should Joe Bloggs next door to Ferrari get their customers have anything different? Yep. So I went out with that approach, and again, I really quickly retreated because it just wasn't that. And the eye-opener for me, John, was the communication that the independent dealers got from maybe lenders, maybe at that time compliance. It was, they were maybe, they didn't really have a choice on what rates they were selling out at. They were capped on commissions. They were still on flat rates. It was just a very different world. Technology was quite poor. I've been dealing with some incredible technology services. Now, this is 2018, and we have obviously accelerated quite a lot, but it definitely was the communication of what the dealers were being told was very different.
Yeah, I think the processes are very different as well, like after sales. And the way I look at it is a franchise dealer likes to have that customer, and they want to have that customer back as many times as physically possible. They want to sell them, warranties, gap, anything they can. With an independent, they want to sell the car and never see the customer again until they just turn up and go, I want to buy another car 3 or 4 years later. Yeah. And it's that I could not get my head around that coming from a franchise dealership myself.
Yeah.
But so, what is DSG in a nutshell?
What is DSG?
And what does DSG stand for?
Oh, okay. Okay, so not many people know this. They sometimes think it's to do with, the engine or the gearbox. But DSG stands for Dean Smith Garages.
All right.
Okay, so those who maybe watch this in the Northwest, Richard Hoggett's dad, Brian Hoggett, who unfortunately passed away, been coming up for about 2 years now, he owned a cluster of predominantly Volvo dealerships in the 80s in the Northwest. And as standards change with the franchisees and all of that, he decided that it was time for him to retire. We sort of fast forward to around the sort of mid-90s, late 90s, and Richard and Mark Gow were involved, and they got the finance side of it. And they were thinking, what do we call it? Millennium Finance, what is it going to be? And you know what? It just sounded right, just keep DSG. So, yeah, it stands for Dean Smith Garages.
I never knew that. Never knew that. With your leadership, I'm going to go back to that. What do you think is the hardest thing about being a leader? I know what I'm going to say. It's staff. Without a shadow of a doubt, staff are biggest pain in the ass, biggest expense. What's yours?
I think if I'm going to be really honest, I still wear my heart on my sleeve, and things really hurt. And I think sometimes because you're a leader, people forget you're a person.
Yeah.
And you can get, you're emotionally invested. I'm really proud of what we've achieved at DSG Connected, but I'm particularly more proud of the people that are in the team that have either, Luke McCarthy has got an incredible career. People know him in the industry. There's other team members that I work with. And, unfortunately, like you've just said, people leave. Sometimes, that just takes its course. Decisions are made within a business, and maybe sometimes people don't agree with it. Our dealers sometimes, can go pop, and they're a great dealer that for whatever reason, not they're at fault or fraud, or there's something going on all the time, and it does naturally have its toll on you. We're all human beings. So as a leader, I try and always shield that from 30 externals and 14 internal salespeople, and that can bear quite a big weight sometimes.
So how do you handle that?
I've got a great SLT team that I work with, and a really great wellness. We're quite big on, having, being able to be open, being able to talk. I'm very fortunate where I live. I can walk out the back garden. I'm in a massive forest, so a lot of walking, breathing in the fresh air. I thought you were going to say you're going to scream
as loud as you can.
Yeah, no, so that might happen. A glass of wine definitely can help. But I think talking, I know it's a cliche, we might say talking, but sometimes it is just...
That's a really good point. When Dan Kirby passed, that was quite a pivotal point for me, because quite a few dealers rang me and they said, the business owners, and we all cut from the same cloth. We need to speak to each other. We know the pressures. We know what it's like. And then, the first time you met me, you hated my guts.
I did, yeah.
I love that.
Mind you, I hated my husband's guts the first time I met him. Right? Honest to God, yeah.
My wife hated my guts. I think she still does as well.
Probably, John.
But you hated my guts, and then you got to understand me a bit better. And then was it last year? We had a I don't know, probably an hour's conversation on the phone.
Yeah.
And it was a phenomenal phone call.
It really was.
And we both wore our heart on our sleeves in that call, and we both found out very personal things about each other, very similar.
But don't you find, John, sometimes it's easier to speak to people that you don't really know?
Yeah.
And it's like I met you properly for the first time
last night.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
And it was like I'd known you forever.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes when you share, you might, like, you've got Nick.
Yeah.
And I know you guys are like as thick as, but there might be times you need to talk to somebody else. Yeah. And maybe not knowing or having that such personal connection, sometimes I think you can be a bit more open, potentially.
Absolutely. And it's tough. It's tough at the top, it really is. I don't think people really understand it, from even car dealers. They start the month from zero every month. Yeah. They got wages to pay. Cash flow is always a big problem. Like you were saying, that, you really love your job. You really love what you do. You're very, very proud of it. Unfortunately, there's not that many people out there who think the same way as you. That's something me and Nick have always noticed. And it's like every company I work for, I was at First Response for 12 years. I used to say, you cut me in half, I'll bleed green.
Yeah.
And I really cared about my job. And I just can't understand how people can come in, just do a job and go home and just switch off. I don't get that. I'm constantly, all the time, 24 hours, I wake up in the middle of the night with an idea, I'll write it down, all these things. But hey, maybe we made of different things, I don't know.
That's really kind you say that. I mean, because again, I was talking to you last night, I'm struggling really badly with imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And, like I was honest with you, last year I had a bit of a health scare. I had to have, quite big surgery and whatever. I was meant to be off for quite a long time. I was off for 2.5 weeks and it wasn't, I suppose there is that still the fear because that's the motor trade put into you through and through. But it's because I just wanted to get back because that's my happy place with my team. And I like to work with infectious people. And the minute I met Mark Gow, when I went for my first interview, I was like, I'm going to be the sponge here. I literally need to just draw everything out of you. And then, as I've moved on in my career and I've worked more with Richard or Jenny, all of those people, they love it too. And one thing I will say about DSG that money can't buy is the people and the attitude.
Yeah.
And, it is.
It's hard getting those people, though. It's very, very hard. But that's an amazing culture to
Kiss a lot of frogs.
Yeah.
But when you find them, you look after them and keep them. Yeah. And that's what, don't get me wrong. It's not a bed of roses every day because I'd be telling you massive porky pies. But we do have a space, especially in the SLT, where, do you know what? If somebody's done something wrong or they've cheesed you off, as long as you're respectful and you wouldn't do it, you can say, I don't agree with that.
I kind of promote that. I
John.
hate nothing more than yes men. That really pisses me off. If you got an idea, come to us with that idea.
Yeah.
And the phrase I hate more is we've always done it that way.
Yeah.
Oh.
Honestly, Richard is the biggest pusher of go and find some ideas. Just come and, as
Absolutely.
wacky as they are. And honestly, I've brought some wacky stuff. Some we've invested in.
Yep.
Some we haven't.
Yep.
And, that's great.
It's all about making mistakes, as I say. The
100.
more mistakes you make, the better. Just learn from them. Just don't keep on doing it over and over again.
No, it is important to make
Like
mistakes.
putting paint in the back of your car.
Yeah.
I won't be doing
All
that
good.
again. How is traditional finance failing dealers?
Traditional finance. Well, I think the problem we've got here with traditional finance is we had COVID. Everything's evolved really quickly.
Do you think?
I do. I think we accelerated with regards to technology, John. I think certain providers stepped up and we realised we had to do a lot more re-signs. We had to make dealers' websites more interactive online, being able to integrate with more lenders quickly, etc., etc. And then obviously we know what we've got coming in the next couple of weeks as well. It's like our industry is constantly under attack all the time. Now, let's hope when we get out of this, we'll be the most cleansed, sanitised industry in the whole world and might get left alone, but who knows. But traditional finance, for me, I think they're just so busy, aren't they? That's the issues that we've got at the moment, particularly with, like, complaints.
Yeah.
Just by the time we get that can be, the dealer can sometimes be on the back foot. So because, of course, lenders have got so much that they're dealing with at the moment, by the time they process the complaint, get it to the broker, we then obviously are inundated. We then have to take it, and it just causes maybe unnecessary bad press because we're not dealing with it quick enough. We need to think about quicker ways.
Do you think because the motor industry is under the microscope,
When is it not?
Yeah.
When is it
but
not?
do you think it's justified? Do you think that, for years, I remember selling cars and every customer I had PPI and they had gap insurance and I used to bump up the rate and that's the way you used to do it. It was the days before the FCA. Did they add the goose that laid the golden egg, if you know what I mean? Or did they make hay while the sun shines and now they've just come in under the scrutiny that other industries are? Look, mortgages, the commission has been there for God knows how long. Insurance.
Look, anybody that sold cars in the 90s or as I started selling cars late 2001, 2002, it was a different world.
Absolutely it was.
Could we behave that way now? Would I behave that way now? Absolutely not. But I was taught Pendle, John. You know, I was thinking about this on the way down. I'd been working at a place, I'm going to change their names, obviously, just because I know some of them are still in the motor trade, and this group has shut down now. But I had been on this Pendle training course, you know, it was sell me the pen, sell me the pen. Yeah, I could sell the pen. And cut long story short, we got a guy that had, he was the GM, he'd left. So we'd had this stand-in GM. I'd probably been at this site like selling cars for the first time. I'd left a really fairly good job. I started there, my basic was $6,000. You know, I was gonna make millions. Was it?
50 quid a week I was on.
Flipping it. And, you know, I take this massive risk. We got a new GM in. And anyway, so lovely couple come in. And they come and they want to have a look at a Peugeot 206. So I go.
Did you work for a Peugeot franchise?
Well, I did, yeah.
And I did, and Nick did as well.
I start off at Peugeot.
Look at that.
I know.
Look at that.
I know, meant to be. I didn't stay there long because we had a nightmare with the comms unit. These lovely old couple came and shouldn't have been driving. And they come and look at a 206. I'd been around their car. Their part exchange was a Fiesta. And went in, got my 10 USPs that I knew about my customer. Went in, and there was a new GSM there. Let's call him Dougie. And I said, Dougie, we've got Mr. and Mrs. Bloggs outside. They'd like to buy a Peugeot 206. It was an ex-demo. Really love it. And he went, we're not selling Peugeots today.
What?
And I went, pardon? At this point, we've got Deadly Dan, the trainee salesman, who's always hovering around because he'd make the coffee or whatever. In those days, he was just kicked around. You could see the lump in his throat. Go, don't question him, Laura. Don't question him. And I'm sort of stood there and I'm sort of looking behind outside of his showroom and I go, Dougie, this is a Peugeot franchise. And he went, come with me, Laura. Let's go for a walk. And basically those days, you know, when cars got to sort of 90 days, because you remember when your sales manager used to, on his desk, he used to have those massive like paper with the bulldog clip with lines to have sold, all his stock list. And when stuff got to 90 days, rather than send it to the block, they would just swap it round all around the different. Yeah. So anyway, a transporter's turned up and there's a green Mondeo on it, right? Nice. The Doom green, like a Y plate. And then there's a silver KA, but it's the one with the plastic bumpers on it.
Yeah.
And he went, they're going to have one of these. So I went, Dougie, they've just come from next door. You know, the massive Ford dealership next door. They've just been there. They don't want a Ford. They don't want one. So he said, come here. And he got the customer's part exchange keys and he threw them on the roof and he went, well, they're not going home in that now, are they, Laura? So get and sell one of these. And to be fair, I did sell the silver KO. Now, you couldn't get away with that.
Jesus Christ.
But that was what we had to put up with. And so did we make a rod for our own back? Pendle, all of that? Yeah, probably, yeah, we did.
Yeah. It has changed in that respect. You know, when we were starting up the compliance guys, I went back into selling cars because I didn't have an income. And I thought, my God, this has changed. For me, the biggest change wasn't selling. It's order taking now. I know there's going to be a lot of complaints about this, but it is order taking because, yeah, you know, when I was selling, we had no internet, so no Wi-Fi, no website. Glasses Guide was the little book. Customers used to come in and they went, I want a car. And you'd have to say what you need it for. And you'd have to know all about your stock, what the miles were, what car was the best suited for them. Now, they come in, they know everything there is about the car, and all they want to know is how much part exchange they can get. Pretty much done beforehand.
I think in the main dealer network, it's a different world because, you know, it's heavily overseen by processes, compliance, you know, making sure that add-ons are sold or delivered responsibly to the customer, you know, giving enough adequate time, etc., etc. For an independent, I'm probably going to say you're absolutely wrong, John. I'm going to be really controversial because, again, this was where I got things so wrong. You know, I'd go on an independence, on a site, and there'd be somebody valeting the car, and I'd be, oh, hello, excuse me, can you tell me where the owner is, please? And they'd be like, hey, up, duck, yeah, that's me. And I'd be, oh gosh. And I just assumed, and I think the independents are, obviously, everything's so expensive to run a business, you know.
Tell me about it.
And I think independents, I'm not saying these gym palaces have a particularly easy time, but, you know, with trying to save costs, you know, they're valeting, they're buying cars, they're out picking up cars, they're dealing with complaints. I think it's just a very...
But the car dealership I went back into selling was an independent.
Right.
So...
Yeah, but how many cars?
80.
And how many salespeople were there?
Me and one other.
Okay. And would you say that you had processes to stick to, or you just left free range?
I tried to introduce processes.
Right.
I'll emphasize the word tried, but yeah, they did it, everything is it's a bit shambolic, if you like, you know.
Okay.
But it was definitely an eye opener, you know, and that's where I came up with the idea for the Drive app again, because I'd noticed that test drives hadn't changed in 20 years. You know, customer comes in, can I test drive that car there? Yeah, no problem. Put a trade plate on the dashboard, get the key, 45 minutes up the road, wave them goodbye. It's like bonkers. You know, as I said to car dealers, would you, if I came in here, you've never seen me before in your life, and I said, will you lend me £20,000 because I want to show my mate up the road? You tell me to off. But that's what they do now. It hadn't changed in 20 years.
But you know, but this is the thing. This is where talking and sharing ideas is something I'm a massive fan of, because until you said what the test drive app did,
Yeah.
and you then cast your mind back, you think, oh, crikey, you know, our independent dealers don't even take a deposit.
Yeah.
And they're there out just giving keys and a trade plate and going, see you later. And you just think, oh gosh, how do you audit that? How do you know? And do you know what? Yes, most of our dealers are very lucky the customers bring the cars back. But yes, if they get a fine or, you know, speeding fine or whatever, how do you audit that?
Exactly.
But I hadn't thought of it, John. It just hadn't.
Well, and there's loads of things, you know, I mean, and it's been compliant as well, you know, and that's something I want to talk about is how do you manage, you know, as a broker with the compliance side of it and so many regulatory changes happening as well.
Yeah, so there's lots, John, and I could sit here all day and bore everybody in this room senseless about it.
Yeah, because compliance is boring.
It is! No, it's not. Do you know, we lead with compliance. You have to.
But it's a tough conversation must be for your sales force to go out there and say, hey guys, I've come here to talk about compliance. And that's one of the reasons we haven't got a sales force on the road. How can you go out there and knock on the door and say, hi, I'm here to talk about compliance?
And that's why we work with people like you so well, John, because there's 30 external people just for DSG Connected that solely deal with independents. And our ethos is to be in that dealer at least twice a month, the supporting dealer.
Yeah.
So a few things we do. One in particular, which I'm so proud of what we do, and not just in the independents, across the board, you know, for your main dealer network, is we do what's called a total takeover on non-prime customers. So if a customer applies and for whatever reason, unfortunately, they can't go through with our prime and go down we call it near prime, non-prime route.
Yeah.
Then what happens is we take over and we speak to the customer, because our ethos is about supporting and helping repair that customer's credit profile, but also making sure we check affordability and vulnerability.
Yeah.
When you take that away from a dealer, because sometimes, you know, we've all done it. When I was selling cars, you know, you've been there for 2 hours and it's, you know, after closing time and the customer's dealt at £250 a month, but then, you know, you send it to a broker and they come back with 350. You know, you've chalked up whatever commission you've got to do that much money because they want that much proofs, because they want, you know, driving license, they want to know their inside leg measurements and everything. Now, look, that has changed quite a lot, but we take over and we speak to the customer because there's still that embarrassment taboo about, I've had problems in the past. Now, when somebody from a finance broker, lender speaks to a customer, they tend to open up a lot more. And what you sometimes find is they've either withheld some information from the dealer, or the dealer has gone, we'll leave that out and we'll say you've been here 3 years when really there was another 6 months address, which we see all the time. It doesn't naturally help. So we would speak to them. If they can't afford the payments, we look at either putting a deposit in. If we can extend the term, we would speak to the customer about that. But more importantly, we do like a concierge service, John. So we would go, right, okay, you can't afford that 12 grand vehicle. Great news is, we've spoken to the dealer. We just need to find you something at maybe £10,500. If we can do that with the dealer, are you happy to go ahead? We speak to the dealer and we just say, we just need to do a change of vehicle. We need something around this age, that price, and the customer would like to go ahead.
I didn't know you had an underwriting team. I really didn't know that. How big's your underwriting team?
Well, almost everything we do is automated.
Ah, right, okay.
So, yeah, we have rules. So we go to all of our lenders who set us all their rules and guidelines of what their you know, scores will be, what they'll accept, what they won't accept, age of vehicles, all of that. And I suppose in my mind, because I'm a simple salesperson, it goes into a washing machine. We get the customer's credit profile, which is a soft search. We do not register a hard search on our customers. Goes into the washing machine. And if all of those fix together and the rules say, yeah, it's good to go to our primary first lender, the gates go down, off it goes. That happens 3 times. Once, if we got 3 declines, it stops and it says, somebody look at me, something's not wrong.
Yeah.
Non-prime, we can send it off to all of our non-prime lenders because they all only do soft searches at underwriting stage.
Yeah.
So we try and be as quick as we can because speed is a big thing that dealers like us to be in the broker world. But we all know that, if I've got access to 20 lenders, I can't scattergun it.
No.
A big thing that's still an eye-opener, John, is that there are still some firms out there that will take props on WhatsApp or will, take it on an email.
Take it from non-regulated dealers.
Yes. We have a very secure online portal system where we try and actually make it customer-facing so you can remove commissions because we show everything up front. There's none of this brokerage of, if I give you another 50 quid, you can have the deal. Those days are gone. But we will do as much as we can. So let's say, especially if our independents are busy, if the customers, had a quote and they've gone away and they're going to come back tomorrow on the be back bus, beep, beep, I'm going to buy the car tomorrow, whatever, you can trigger the application straight to the customer so that they can fill it out.
Yeah.
You find that the data's more accurate. The only thing we still struggle with is mileages that we don't get right from the dealer.
And they round it up, don't they?
I don't know sometimes, honestly, but then it causes problems at payout. You
Absolutely.
have to then get another GFE, another potential search on a customer.
Yep.
So again, with us, we do so much. It's just trying to create awareness of simple changes that people can make to make compliance a little bit easier.
Because you mentioned speed of acceptance.
Yeah.
And I remember doing a little thing when I was at First Response, and I'd go out to the dealers and I say, what's really important to you? What's really important? Can you remember, what do you think number 1 was? What they would first say?
Speed.
No,
Money.
commission.
Oh, really? See,
Commission. They would always go commission, right? Now, bearing in mind, when I was at First Response, the average balance was 3,800. They may kill me for this, so I don't know if I should say this or not.
3,800?
3,800 was the average balance, lend.
Wow.
And my average commission at the time was £49. Yes, that's £49. And I would go out to dealers and say, what's important to you? Commission. I'll go, okay, commission. So if I was to give you £1,000 commission, would you be happy on like a £3,800 deal? Oh yeah, I'd be over the moon. Okay. So if you give me 10 deals, but I only accepted 1, but you'd have that £1,000 commission, you'd be happy. Oh, no. I want acceptances. So is acceptances before commission? Oh yeah, definitely. So 9, all right, okay. So if we 2 weeks for an answer, would that be okay? Oh, no. It's got to be instant. It's got to be, all right, okay. And commission would slowly go down to the bottom. Again, when I was at First Response, right at the beginning, we'd have to have...
A long time ago.
We'd have to have insurance, proof of insurance, the logbook, driving license, second proof of signature, proof of address, 2 guarantors, and a couple of other bits and pieces. And that was the proofs. Now it's like hardly anything. Driving license, which you can upload. And
that's the same with a lot of non-prime lenders. I tend to say, it's very difficult. I know that dealers are precious. They don't want to lose the sale. But I would rather say, would you like to me to give you a fast no or a slow yes? Because I am going to work really hard to try and help get an acceptance that's right for you and most importantly right for your customer, that your customer comes back to you in 2, 3, 4 years' time. I don't want to shoehorn them into anything, and we're not going to do that. So, if you want me to scattergun it to every single lender, we're not the broker of choice for you.
And thanks for watching or listening, and remember to tune in next week for part 2 with Laura Jones from DSG.